Hello, it's me, your close personal friend, youtube.com/mootroidXproductions. Yes, I'm talking to you personally, Jacob from Ohio. This is part 2 of my Sky Below behind the scenes project, so I strongly recommend that you go and watch part 1 first, and of course watch part 3 in 2 weeks. I might do an unboxing of him at the end. Got a little plushie Einli from a fan. He's adorable, and he has a very squishy face. Okay, no more nonsense. I'll just get straight into the video. It picks up where the first one left off. Edit. I'm gonna edit it to start right here. So building all these temple walls was pretty similar to building the caverns, but the main difference was that I cut out all these carving shapes beforehand. Most of them were completely random, but I did throw in some hidden messages here and there. For instance, in this shot, you can see Einli walking past the Hebrew letters Aleph, Yud, Nun, Lamed, Yud, which spells out his name, Einli. That shot was also the first time I used this neat little camera slider rail. It's not like a fancy winder, you just sort of push it along by hand. For most of the opening scenes, I was just using a tripod, but for the more complicated climbing scene, I was using this crane thing called a C-stand. And for the really wild angles, I was using an articulating arm. So, half my set just collapsed. As you can see, it's quite a dramatic effect. He's still okay though. I'm gonna go cry in a ball now. Okay, so I've fixed it, and as you can see, the duct tape will keep it from falling forward, while the large rocks will keep it from falling backward. Luckily, I always keep a few large rocks on hand in case of situations exactly like this one. So now he finds this leaf, and it's the first bit of green since the beginning. It further establishes that green is what he needs, but it feels foreign and alien compared to the warmer colors of the cave. When he tries to take the leaf though, he realizes that everything here is already dead. He goes deeper into the temple and he finds this bug, but it's pretty much the same as before. Old and dead and not edible anymore. Oh, and I had to make a few unique expressions for this shot that were pretty much never used again. The disgusted face and the tongue face in particular were only ever used here. Like, I went to all that trouble and you only see it for a few frames at a time. Not that I'm complaining though, I like that shot a lot. Also, there was like an ugly little seam line on the bug from where the plastic was molded. I had to spend like an extra half hour cleaning that up in post. Then comes a major turning point. We see a second light source for the first time, and it's green. There's only been one light source for the entire film so far, and never any green light, so this feels completely foreign. Combine that with the fact that he's in some kind of ancient, desolate, crumbling temple made by an unknown society, and that is the feeling of exploring the depths, capital D. The deeper you go, the stranger, the more dangerous, and the more beautiful things become. The light spills onto this particular carving, which you may realize is foreshadowing what's about to happen. Looks a little like a beam of light destroying some kind of shapeless monster, doesn't it? In the original storyboard, I went straight from him spitting out the bug to just finding the big circular chamber, but that, as screenwriters say, was piss. I added this whole sequence of him noticing the green light first so that you can see his reaction, and hopefully you can start wondering what could be giving off that light down here. So now, here's the first major color shift. The environment goes from orange with moments of green to green with a single spot of orange. The green, being unfamiliar and alien, is overpowering, so he feels uncomfortable and confused, but he still has his lantern, so he feels safe. But now he's found the source of the green light, as well as what sustains the plants, so he's found the biggest salad yet, but it's right in this beam of weird sunlight. The colors match, you know, green light, green salad, so this tells viewers that the light and the plants come from the same place. For this whole scene, I was animating him on the floor. Usually it was on a table, but like these tower set pieces were so big that they wouldn't fit, I had to just stick them on the floor. I didn't have a tripod that was small enough to shoot at his level like that though. I had to like pull out the neck of my tripod and flip it around and let the camera dangle down between the legs. I'm not gonna make the obvious joke. I was sitting on the floor for a few days while I was shooting this. It was horrible. Once I saw like a massive spider just sitting next to me, and I am very arachnophobic, so I had to call my sister and have her bring down a cup and some paper so we could like safely remove it from the premises. But even after that, I just kept feeling this weird itching, like something was still crawling on me, and I couldn't see anything. I swear I could see them in the shadows. I was so freaking jumpy the whole time that the shot turned out badly, and I had to reshoot it anyway, and it was just awful, and I never want to do that again. And I really don't like spiders. So the beam of light was originally going to be just normal sunlight, and Einli's reaction would imply that he'd never seen sunlight before. But there was some confusion among test audiences, meaning my classmates, considering he carries around a source of light himself. So once I started working on the color script, I decided I would make the light sort of a bright green, that way it would match the plants, and I also added that distortion effect so that viewers would instantly know this is something completely new and unfamiliar even to them. The enormous tower set, by the way, was probably the most difficult thing to build. It took a long time to find anything big enough to use as a base, but eventually I settled on these window well covers. I needed 6 of them to make 2 gigantic halves of the tower. They were already heavy enough, but then I had to cover them in foam and plaster too. Moving these things to the basement was not an experience I ever want to repeat. As for the lighting, I used a pretty low-tech solution. I got the color by just covering Ziploc bags with Sharpie and putting them over a clamp light, and then I also used a paper towel roll to get that spotlight effect. I'm gonna take a break and get some water. That was my knee. I had to get some water. I'm not used to talking this much. Like usually I'm just sort of sitting there with a book, pretending to be part of the conversation. If someone asks me a direct question, I will answer as briefly as possible. I've been talking for 40 minutes and I've only read like half of this. Also, that should tell you how often I mess up when I'm speaking. I don't know how long the actual video is going to be right now, but like, subtract that from 40 minutes and that's how many times I had to reshoot because I kept screwing up. I am not a public speaker, but I can trick you into thinking I am. Okay, so now I bring back the conflict between what he wants and what he needs. He wants to stay underground, but he needs to leave the caverns. He wants the salad, but he's afraid of the light. He even brandishes a weapon at it. The light reflects off the blade and shines into his eye, and now he's even more afraid. He might have just eventually reached into the light, but now it's hurt him, so he's intent on staying away. The knife, by the way, was designed specifically to fit the shape of his hands. You might notice that it's similar to the energy sword from Halo, which is due to the fact that he has similar hands to the Einli who used them. I made a 3D printed model of the knife and then cast it in bronze, so that thing is real metal. I stabbed myself a few times, so there was actual blood, sweat, and spider juice that went into this. So for this big shot here, I digitally extended the tower to make it seem much taller. It had a pretty obvious endpoint at first, but I wanted to make it seem almost endless, to give you a massive sense of scale. So he gives in to his fear, and instead of braving the light, he avoids it by blocking the beam with a rock. But that, of course, was a mistake, as it releases this monster. This thing is called the Sullivan. That's a Latin word that can mean either alone or earth or dirt. I intended it to be like a shapeless mass of darkness that embodies the emptiness of the underground or something like that. But most people seem to think it's like a giant plant monster. It does resemble a tangle of roots, and I guess that's compounded by the fact that it appears from underneath a plant. Like, I didn't mean for it to look like angry salad, but that is an interesting way to look at it. So this is the second major shift in the color script. Purple, in the context of this film, is unambiguously dangerous and evil. It never appears anywhere other than the Sullivan, so there's nothing good associated with it. Purple then represents what will happen to Einli if he stays underground. And now we have all 3 colors together, the purple competing with the green to overwhelm the orange. The Sullivan was like the most straightforward thing to fabricate for this film. It basically just involved buying a few rolls of black aluminum wire and tangling them together with strips of tulle. It's like the sort of mesh kind of fabric stuff. Like, I think goth girls like it. No, that's fishnets. I left a hollow space in the base so I could fit in one of these puck lights. I really wanted it to like glow from the inside. I'm happy it looked so good. I made 5 or 6 different Sullivan chunks. Each one was in a different size, and I usually use them in tandem with one another, so that would make it appear as though it's constantly reforming and reshaping itself. Around here there was going to be a shot of the Sullivan grabbing the plant that had been grown over it and just sort of like sucking the life out of it until it turned gray and brittle, and honestly, I only cut it because I forgot it was supposed to be there. I wish I'd remembered though, because that was like a really good way to raise the stakes. I think that's like the one actual mistake I would correct if I had the chance to go back. That and the opening shot. Also, my original storyboard was a fair bit more convoluted. Basically, Einli finds a big tall room with a beam of light but no plants, and he gets scared and leaves. Then he backtracks and finds another room with another beam of light, but this time there's plants in it, so he blocks the light and releases the Sullivan, and then he runs back to the first room and starts climbing. That, as screenwriters say, was also piss. It was much more efficient storytelling to just consolidate everything and make it all happen in the same place. I also only had to build one set that way, so let that be a lesson. If you can streamline, then streamline. Don't go on unnecessary tangents, like this unnecessary tangent where I'm telling you about that time I went on an unnecessary tangent. That decision to combine the 2 settings introduced an unexpected challenge, though. I had to design a set that would allow him to block a beam of light coming from the ceiling, hundreds of feet in the air, in a way that would also allow him to reach the plant underneath it. And that is much harder than it sounds for some reason. I went through a few iterations of this room, including like a mechanical system of lenses that he'd adjust to redirect the beam. But in the end, I just went with something as simple as possible, big rock. So those first two shots of Einli climbing up the wall were animated exactly as you see them. I just had the wall standing upright, and I had to struggle to keep him stuck to the wall. I was using like poster tack under his fingers. You can even still see it in the final cut. For those two shots though, while I was like fighting to keep him from falling, it honestly felt as though I was the one hanging on to it. I've never actually felt something like that while I was animating before. I think it might be the animation equivalent of method acting. Also, you'll notice that this wall is reused in two places. First as the temple entrance, and second as the entrance to the big circular chamber. It was just such a cool piece that I didn't want to use it once and then never again. For the rest of the climbing scene, I turned one of the tower halves on its side and laid it on my animation table. I also turned the camera 90 degrees to make it look like he was climbing upward. I made heavy use of that C-stand and articulating arm I mentioned for this scene. It was very physically taxing because I had to like reach over the elevated side of the tower half and then reach back down into it. It cannot have been good for my back. Also, going back to that earlier shot of him looking up at the tower, this one was also animated sideways. It was the last thing I animated before redressing the set for the final scene on the surface. Do you hear that? Just a moment. Okay, so I just got a package in the mail from a fan, online buddy, fellow artist, Isabel Brayman, who you should go follow. I'm so freaking sweaty right now. I don't have the AC on because it's so loud. But anyway, inside the package was a little boy. Hello. Hello, my child. Oh, hello. Oh, he looks so good. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Oh, it's Space Mom. Oh, this is great. It's him. Oh, it's him. Oh my gosh, it's him. Oh, he's got a nice butt. Oh, look at him. He's bigger than I expected. And he's hefty. Well, kinda. It's just like sturdy. Okay, so I got the boy. Look at the boy. Look at that. Got my freaking boy. There we go. Perfect. There's also this lovely painting of Einli. I love seeing him with little butterflies. That brings me so much happiness. And in addition to that, there's this friggin' sick painting of Samus in her fusion suit. That's like such an underrated suit. I love it. Looks amazing. I love the proportions. He looks so freaking good. Oh, I love his pants, his baggy pants. He's so cute. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Mm. Ooh. Ooh. It's like, ooh. Go follow Isabel Brayman on Instagram. Follow Metroid35 as well. That's her Metroid 35th anniversary project. Lots of really cool artists are collaborating for the 35th anniversary zine. I myself have contributed as well. Oh, he's so cute. Look at his face, squishy face. Look at his squishy face. She has a really cool art style. She makes a lot of these really like cartoonish, floppy, goofy looking plushies. I think it's a really cute style. So, you know, commission some art from her. She deserves it. Look at that. I'm very happy right now. Okay, so that concludes part 2 of the behind the scenes project. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to come back for part 3 in 2 weeks. In the meantime, you can follow me on my various social media accounts. You'll get a lot of updates and shorter clips there, as well as more behind the scenes stuff that you won't see here for a little while. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, although I do get a little bit political there, so be careful. And if you're like financially stable somehow in the year of our Lord 2021, there's always my Patreon. So take care, Jacob from Ohio. I love you.